Welcome back to the show. It's good to see you. Coach Grant Eilertson here with a special guest today, Mr. Spencer Mayo, who has been absolutely killing it in his new role as a high ticket closer. And I'm stoked to catch back up with him and kind of get a little bit of the behind the scenes scoop on what it's like to be a high performing sales rep in the current year. I'm going to say 2021, but you're probably watching this in the future. So cheers to you from the past. Bro, it's good to see you, man. You right before we hopped on here, you were about to tell the story about our sales call where I didn't make the sale, but apparently was kind of a life-defining moment for you. And I would love to hear firsthand what that is without putting words in your mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know how much you remember it, like I said, but long story short, I've ever since high school, always just done some form of sales or another, never formally got trained, right? So just kind of selling like pyramid schemes and, always something new. I figured that was my thing, but never really knew how, like why I was good at it or whatever, right? So fast forward to a couple years down the road, I got into personal training and filled up my books pretty quick. And then I built a big gym, got a partner, and you know how that story typically goes. And I was absolutely miserable. I mean, I was just working like a dog. I mean, between the boot camps, the sales, and the just running it and one-on-one training. I mean, I never worked so hard in my life. And I was making a lot of revenue, just wasn't keeping a lot, right? Like it was just somehow something always came up where we're spending money and just unforeseen stuff and then marketing and just one thing after another, where I was making more money take home than ever before, but just the ups and downs were just driving me nuts.
Yeah.
And where did I get? So I forgot exactly what you posted. You posted some kind of say me in the comments below or something like that. And I can get a free consultation. And I'm like, I was in such a spot where like, I need guidance so bad. I was like, I'll pay for it at this point. Like, even though I from a strategy standpoint, felt like I was doing really good. I was closing I was charging $250 for a monthly boot camp, which here is like double what everyone else charges. And I was closing almost every time. Like, it wasn't like I needed sales help. I just needed help, right? So I hop on the call.
When we were talking, it was like you were closing deals left and right, but the profit margins were the issue. It's like you've always been a sales savage, which is dope. But
right, and well, for $250, it was kind of easy, right? But because I come from one-on-one training, so it was kind of like everything was just like, of course you're gonna do this, Anyway, so hop on the call, and I don't know how you just read me or whatever, and you start asking me the right questions that I've been avoiding asking myself forever. And within not even 5 minutes, it had to be 5 minutes, you basically, from what I can remember, were like, you don't want to own a gym, do you? Or you don't want to grow your gym. And I'm like, of course I do. And then we got to the point of me understanding I don't actually want to own a gym, that I just want to do sales. And the reason I got a partner in the first place was to offload the responsibility of being a business owner, which is not realistic, right? And so that stuck with me. I was like, man, you're right. I just kind of gave you I wasn't ready for it. And it wasn't until really Corona came around that I got my great escape, where I was like, I'm out of here. And that's why I was able to sell the business and bounce and just went into full-time closing. And since then, it's been insane. The best thing that's ever happened. I mean, like, I meet people and they're like, wow, you look so much more happy. I'm like, I am a lot more happy. Like, money aside, my life is so much better, so much more meaningful. I mean, and don't get me wrong, the gym business is awesome, but I just didn't feel like I was doing what I was supposed to do. Like I kind of deep down felt like someone else could do this and it doesn't have to be me, where with sales, for whatever reason, I feel like this was what I was made to do. And even if I was making less money than before, I still feel way better.
Dude, I feel that. Did I share with you my story about how I was running my own fitness business for a couple of years and then just got totally burnt out and didn't really even realize what was wrong, but I just felt like I was in the wrong place. Did we go through that?
We did. This was before that call. This was way back when I was in a supplement store buying stuff, actually. So I remember where I was when I was on the call. And it's funny how that works, right? And we were talking about Eli at the time, you remember? And Ben and that whole little group.
Yeah, it's crazy because the moment I decided to step back and look at the business and realize that it was not me, but it was the whole kind of vehicle I was in just didn't serve me anymore and kept me operating underneath my potential, The moment I started selling for other people, I realized that was my gift, is connecting with people. And that's why I was able to see that in you so quickly and ask you those questions, because I felt like I was just talking to myself a few months back. You know what I mean?
I can't wait till I meet one of those on the phone. I'm like, I got you, dude. I will help you. Oh, yeah. Even if I don't make a sale, who cares? Man, it was horrible.
100%.
Absolutely horrible.
So, dude, what are some of the biggest lessons that you've picked up since transitioning to selling full time? Like, if you could give your former self some advice, just based on what you know now, what do you think would make a real big difference?
You mean like me 2 months ago when I started in the role?
Yeah,
not like me when I had the gym.
Right. When you first started selling, because I can remember it. My first sales call that I took for my own business, first high ticket thing I ever sold, $1,500 offer. I literally had pit stains after that call, and then the subsequent like 10. So I was just super scared more than anything else. But what was it like for you getting started?
Isn't that crazy? Because this is a side note, but $1,500 when I remember with the coaching program we were in a long time ago, I thought $1,500 was insane that you could charge someone that over the phone for online training. And
let alone get paid in fulls all day, every day.
Yeah. And it's so funny because it's a mindset, because I did it a couple of times. And then when I did personal training, I was charging 2,000 every time, or 1,800. And now looking at what we do now, 1,500, it's like a deposit, it's crazy. Anyway,
it is.
It's insane. And to imagine like how other people look at, a 12 or $15,000 offer, that to them, that's like, nothing. Anyway, so the biggest advice I would give is looking at the numbers, because I'm looking at my my sales sheet right now, my closing sheet. Looking at the numbers, the big difference maker, which I don't know what next month's going to bring, so I still have a ton to learn, is don't overcomplicate it. It's a conversation, right? And don't assume anything. And so, bring up really good points that, of course, you are already seen them many times, but don't assume that that's the case, because I was assuming a lot in the beginning and just ended in like weird conversations, like ending like, okay, well, send me an email and we'll get back to you. And I'm like, okay, cool. So definitely finding out the three main things, right? Is what's the problem? Why is the problem? And what if they try to fix it, or why is now the time to fix it? And not being afraid. And then this is like a last week discovery for me. This is all kind of new, but really not being afraid to push it. Like today I was talking to a really nice lady, and she was just a wall, like very like nice, but like not budging. Like, okay, what do we try to fix it? No big deal. It's not a big deal. All that. And I was like, if I don't break this barrier right now, I'm doing her such a big disservice. I'd rather lose her now and just say, it wasn't the right time than to not. So I pushed it. I forgot exactly what I said, but somewhere along the lines of, hey, you have this part-time job, things are stable. Why do you need your business to go full-time? Why not just kind of keep it where it is? And she gave me another smoke screen, and I pushed it again. I was like, fuck it. I could say that on the show, right? Fuck it. I was like, fuck it. Let's push it. And I went in and I was like, this is it. She's going to hang up. And then she was like, I've always been the breadwinner in my house and super stressful, and I have no time to come home to my kids. For that matter, I don't want to see my husband. And she just blew up, and I was like, this is great. So that was literally today. So that is definitely the biggest thing, is not being afraid to go that extra push. Because I've always been really good at rebuttals and like looping and stuff like that. Even before I learned it, like I just read the Jordan Belfort book and I picked it up pretty quick.
Yeah.
But if you don't do the work on the front end, the rebuttals, you're going to go in circles forever, making perfect sense, but never getting there. And I've always been really bad at the discovery part, because I always assumed I knew what the problem was, and I never let them become their idea, never let them say it, right? Like you always say that line. And I think that has been the biggest thing to help. It's just like, don't be afraid to go there in the beginning, because you're never going to get there in the end if you don't. And also don't assume anything.
Dude, so you just brought up a few huge points, and it's funny because these are literally the exact same things I've been working with some of my new sales reps on. And so I want to pick apart a couple of them. One thing that you said, it's about like, hey, I've always been pretty comfortable with looping and objection handling, but there's really no point if I haven't made the sale on the front end. Most people don't get this. So I kind of want to pick that apart a little bit before we dive into the not assuming anything, because that's key too. So stick around. But this whole idea of, handling objections. People ask me all the time, like, what do you do to handle the timing objection, or the finance, or the spouse, or the just pure, like, I don't believe in myself. And when I listen to people's calls, what they don't realize is they haven't actually done proper discovery on the front end. So there's no sale to actually be made in the first place. So what you were just saying about really digging down with that woman, you know, like, why now? Why is it actually important for you to even grow this business? What are some of the things that you've noticed now are working really well on the front end of the call, or maybe things that you're looking to be aware of for you to know that, hey, now there is a sale to be made?
So good question. So I sell right now, I'm selling like lead generation strategies, like Facebook ads.
Oh yeah, let's get
Business
a shameless
development.
plug in here right now for people
Yeah.
that resonate with Spencer as we go through the rest of this interview. What is it that they could possibly have a conversation with you about if they decide to reach out?
Right. So we sell to PTs and Cairo, specifically pain management, Facebook lead gen. So with a little bit of sales development, actually a lot of sales development and business development. So it's a pretty like robust course. Be hard to explain it all right now, but so with that type of buyer, I do appreciate the plug. With that type of buyer, what really I feel works really well is going into, I don't know exactly what Cole calls it, Cole Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what he calls it, but it's like this digging sequence. I just wrote it down. And basically we ask, the numbers. So not so much like, hey, what are you doing? So they're going to say, word of mouth. I do workshops. It's like always the same couple of things, right? I do
Yeah.
Facebook posts. Someone writes blogs for us, stuff like that. I'm like, okay, cool. So total, what's that bringing in for you as far as new business in the doors? And then they tell you, okay, it's like 10 to 20. Like that's a big difference. Okay. So 10 to 20 a month. And then what he does, if you've seen his little deal, where basically he'll say, okay, how many of those are the type of people you actually want to work with?
Mm.
And then they say, oh, well, like 4. I'm like, 4 out of 20. Got it. Okay. And why do you think that is? Right. And then so we get into there and then we talk about their conversion rate. And then basically we dissect exactly how much cash they've actually made or they think they made. And then you confirm and say, okay, so last month in new business, we did exactly $2,000. Is that fair to say? And they'd be like, oh, or $10,000. They're like, and usually it's a lot less than they think. And we'll give it, how about last month? Okay, well, last month was a fluke. And the month before that, and they're all a fluke, right? And that helps a lot, definitely breaking down. And then from there, once I know exactly where they're at, and it's not where they said they were in the beginning of the call, at least in this situation, then I can really, it's pretty easy to say, okay, so, where does that like leave us? Is that okay? Is this barely getting by or is this thriving? Things like that.
Dude, one of my favorite questions in a situation like that is, well, how much longer is that going to be okay?
I like that one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I like that a lot.
So talk to me a little bit more just about cues that you recognize before you are clear that it's time to move into the presentation. Because I just did a video about this, the 2 stages of a sales call, where on the front end you're being inquisitive, it's curious, like, well, really, can you tell me a little bit more about that? How do you mean when you said that? What does that look like for you? And then when you're clear, right, on the emotional and logical certainties that you need before you're like, got it, I've diagnosed you, it's time to prescribe. Then moving into, okay, well, this is how it is. I'll take your hand, walk with you every step of the way, and I'll make sure that as long as you show up, you will not fail. So what are some of the things that maybe you're aware of that okay, now it's time, there's a sale to be made. I can actually go in and present an offer and they'll be open to it.
Right. So I actually just watched that video today, I think, or maybe yesterday. I don't know if you made it today. And yeah, so I watched that video today. And to be honest with you, my tone actually, I never noticed that that's what you're supposed to do. So my tone has always been curious the whole way through, which is funny because now I'm like, I can't wait to hop on a call. And because I thought that's what we were supposed to do. So I've always just been kind of laid back, like, okay, I think we could help, where do you want to go? And that's always what I've always done. And now it makes perfect sense that in the beginning it should be like that. And then once you flip the switch, because I do know what they need at that point, officially, it's more of a prescription that I should change my tone. So I'm excited to see how that goes. But if you're asking about like, when do I go into the transition? Basically, I guess, I don't know if everyone does it in the same order, but I do it where I always do like the problem first type deal. So I find out the problem. Then after I get deep on the problem, I'll go into the goal. I usually say something along like, hey, let's start with the end in mind, right? Just so I have an idea of where we're trying to go.
I like that.
how far are we from the goal? And that's especially if they're being tight on the number, especially the doctors. A lot of times they won't tell me the exact amount of money that they're making or what they want to make. And so I'll just try to reverse engineer it with like the visits and then the cost and, so on and so forth. So I'll use that to say, okay, so we're doing about 10 visits a week right now in cash and we want to get to 30. So about how much a month off is that? And then that helps a ton. And so once I finish there, I just look back on my notes and I just check real quick if I know what the problem is, why the problem's a problem, and why now's the time to fix it. And if I can answer all those questions real quick in my head, then I know I have the moral authority, I guess, to proceed. And then I just ask if I can. It's pretty easy, right? You just say, okay, this is what we should do. This is what I would do. Where do you want to go? And then they usually say, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, okay, cool. And I share my screen. That's pretty much it.
So something maybe for you then to keep in mind. I love doing Zoom calls. Are you doing Zoom calls or just phone calls?
Zoom calls.
Okay. Well, so you have the benefit of being able to look at people's body language, and you can tell when someone feels like fully seen and understood. Their shoulders kind of come down a little bit, and it's almost like you can see. It sounds funny, but a little bit of hope in their eyes, like, and a lot of times, appropriately applying mirrors and labels, like, well, it seems like XYZ. When I get that, yeah, that's exactly what's going on. And I'll just ask, okay, well, I've got some thoughts. Would you be open to some feedback based on what I'm seeing? Or they'll specifically ask, well, yeah, I mean, what would you do? The moment they're actually transferring trust like that, I know, okay, got it. Come with me. I'll take you to the promised land. And you can usually see it in their eyes where it's like it clicks. There's that moment for people where it's like, kind of a little bit unpresent, thinking about stuff to like, oh, and I go, that's landing, isn't it? You think it might possibly be time to do things a little bit differently? But dude, you said something earlier on about not assuming anything, and I want to dive into that a little bit too, because some of my sales reps that are on a fitness account right now, like they're selling fitness, they also have coaching businesses of their own, so they're really well versed. And because they understand a lot about how the human body works, when they're talking with their prospects, they will assume things because they have this knowledge base. But in doing so, they'll actually sabotage the sale because the prospect then doesn't have the opportunity to hear themselves talk about what's really going on. Because you mentioned this a little bit earlier. If I say it, you doubt it. But if you say it, you own it. Right. So what brought about that lesson there about like, don't assume anything? Because that's a huge one. And a lot of people never really grasp that.
Oh man, I think it was you saying that line. I saw it on one of your Facebook videos, I think, that you said that. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. But basically, I don't know what was like the aha moment for me, but it's so clear to me, right? That if a doctor has no lead generation strategies, right? Most of these guys are blaming their word of mouth being down because of COVID. And in reality, that's probably not the case, right?
No.
So they're like, oh, no one wants to come out. My town is different, blah, blah, blah. You hear it every day, right? And it's like, especially from being a business owner who had to take responsibility for, generating leads. It's like the day that I made the switch from just hoping everyone would talk about me to putting my money where my mouth was and saying like, look, let me kind of go back a second. I don't know if this is a Zig Ziglar thing or a Brian Tracy thing, but I think it is Brian Tracy from The Psychology of Selling. This is an old school one, right?
Yeah, we're going back now.
Yeah.
You've been studying.
Said, my dad made me put in my car and listen to it over and over as a kid. So Brian Tracy, thanks for this one. He said, if we knew every person we spoke to tomorrow would sign up on our biggest package, 100% sure, how many more people would we make sure we're in front of? And would we still take an extra long coffee break? Would we wait to go to the bathroom till after work? Would we wake up early? Would we leave the office late? Or would you be exactly how you were yesterday? Would nothing change?
Hmm. I really like that perspective. So, under the assumption that, hey, every person that I come into contact with has the potential to need and be willing to pay for my highest price solution. If that's the case, how would I show up then? Oof, I like that.
It's funny, right?
I'm going to put a pin in success routines, as a high performing sales rep, because I want to dive into that. So stick around because we'll look at that in a couple minutes here. But to kind of cap off the don't assume anything. Anything else you want to chat about a little bit on that topic before we move on to the next?
Yeah. I know I'm a little scattered on that one.
Oh,
So
you're good, man. So my brain is all over the place. I'm a squirrel.
yeah, we're like, so basically is that we know, or I know that they need leads because they just said they need leads, but they don't get it yet. That's the crazy thing. And so even if I'm 100% right, there is always that fluke, right? Where I'm not going to build that moral authority because I'm actually not diagnosing them correctly. I'm not asking the right questions. That's number one, like you had said. I'm bet you could explain that probably better than I could, because I actually got that from you. But number two is that they don't even know that they need it yet. And me telling them doesn't mean anything because they still see us and like as just like some crazy person saying that, oh, our clients made an extra 20, 30 grand a month this month. And it makes no sense to them. Like, how could you make an extra 30 grand a month by posting on Facebook, you know? And so you do have to get them to come to that conclusion. And so they have to, like you said, they have to say it. If they don't, we're just going in circles, you know?
Yeah. So that quote that I always like put out there, like if I say it, you doubt it. If you say it, you own it. It was inspired by Eli, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because what he says, telling is not, or selling is not telling. And when he said that, it like flipped a light switch in me when I realized, oh man, it has nothing to do with the fancy magic words that come out of my mouth. Right. All that matters is good questions to get the right answers. And so I thought about it. I was like, how many times has someone tried to tell me all the wonderful benefits to their offer and I just didn't believe them?
Right.
It's like every time.
Wow. That's funny. Do you have any insight? Because like I know what you're saying, but I don't know how to put into words when it comes to not assuming. Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah. So, there's obviously, if you go down below in the description and download the 7 questions guide, the way that I think about sales is objections or concerns. Concerns come up from just information that hasn't been expressed clearly between the two parties. So thinking about from a doctor frame, I won't trust a prescription unless I feel I've been adequately diagnosed. I constructed those 7 questions based on the most common objections, right? Like, so instead of saying, hey, now is the right time, you obviously need to do this now or things are going to go down the shitter. Well, if I say that, they're just like, yeah, no way. But if I ask, why is now, right? Well, I get that this is important to you, but why now? Why not just wait? So that they can tell me all the reasons why they believe they can't wait. And then it's just up to me to agree with them. That makes sense. In fact, I actually agree with you based on what I've seen in the past. So, my next question then is like, where do you want to go from here? Are you okay with this continuing? Because it sounds like you're thinking it might possibly be time for a change so that they can tell me. But the problem with what happens actually more with seasoned sales pros, like people that are on a lot of calls, is you start to see patterns. And so what's going to come up. And so you just assume, right, that like this is what the person needs. Duh, I've seen it 100 times. But when you skip steps and take them out of that psychological process that they need to experience in order to buy, well, then it's kind of like baking a cake and you either miss ingredients or you have all the right ingredients, but not in the right order.
Right.
Makes
perfect sense.
So assumptions will kill your sale. Just like the old adage, assuming makes an ass out of you and me.
Yep. Absolutely.
Wow. So let's jam a little bit with some of the time we got left on like success routines. Cause I'm going to take your word and say that was one of Brian Tracy's quotes. Cause I don't know, it actually hit me pretty hard. I like that. So thanks for teaching me something new today.
Sweet.
What are some of the things that you feel contribute to you showing up in your best space as a sales rep? Like, are there certain days where, there's a new habit or routine or something you do, feel, say, smell that leads you to believe like, hey, this is how I get into my optimal state. This is how like I need to show up every day and then I'll kick ass.
Bro, you want to know the truth? I've always struggled with this, so I'm gonna be really vulnerable for you.
All right. We'll give
Vulnerable
some
post
snaps to you
alert.
for being vulnerable. That's not easy to
Yeah,
do.
I'm horrible with all the stuff that people teach, like cold showers. I mean, you name it, alarm clocks. I mean, and it's not that I'm not disciplined. I'm extremely disciplined. It's just like all the woo-woo stuff, which is like definitely has a place, is like the worst. I'm the worst at that. Where I'm really good and I in the pocket and I just exceed, is I'm a competitor at heart, right? And so I'm like always the kind of person that just does what it takes to win. Like everything I've ever done in my life, I've been very extreme, probably to a fault. And I've hurt a lot of people in my life probably because of it. Um, and it's just being honest, right? So like high school, pick up breakdancing. That's something a lot of people start very young. Picked it up at the end of 8th grade and just like ran with it, like lost all my friends and just like became the best breakdancer I could possibly be, right?
Dude, I had
Then I
no
get
idea. I have two
yeah,
left feet, so you would dance circles around me.
yeah, I was just like, I just went absolutely nuts. Like I dropped my whole life for it basically. And like I said, to a fault, like it was pretty bad. But I was like, I'm gonna be in the Red Bull BC1 championship, like eat, sleep, break. That's it. And then I become a Christian and I'm still a Christian, but not like that, you know. Had my come to Jesus moment and it's like, "Whoop, I can't have friends, whoop, I can't have fun. Like I need to be reading the Bible or else I'm going to hell. Right. And so that's always kind of how I am. Um, so as long as I feel like I'm getting better and I have something that I can excel in, I'm just really happy. That's really all I could say. Like I don't have very many success routines. I probably should, but as long as I feel like I'm doing the right thing and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I could outwork anyone. Like I don't have any because I really find a lot of enjoyment in my work. And that's why the whole gym thing was so hard because I hit this level where I kind of got stuck and I just felt very complacent and just I can't thrive in that kind of environment. I was the kid in high school who like the teacher was like, you better, I mean, I did really well in high school, but they're like, you better start getting serious about college. You better start applying. I'm like, why? So I can end up like you stuck to a desk, you know? Like
Yeah. So I can make
like I
40
was
grand a year talking to kids I don't like.
right. So like I'm the one like eighth grade. What year do you graduate? 12th grade. I'm on YouTube. Like, what can I do except for college? Like, what else can I do? That was me. So I don't really have very many like success routines. I definitely have things like what we talked about that have helped my mindset. But really, I'm just like, I'm in it to win, you know? Like if you're just in sales to show up and take calls, you're not gonna have a fun time. Forget about making money. You're not
Mm-hmm.
gonna have a good time at all because you have to grow so much. You have to learn from like you got to be your hardest critic, you know? If you're relying on your boss to like nudge you when your KPIs go down, you're not gonna have a good time regardless of the money, you know?
Yeah.
And like I told Dave, one of our sales coaches, I was telling him like, you know, he's like, what's your goal? I'm like, dude, I want to be the best. Like I want to be the best at high ticket closing to where I could talk to someone like you did, and in the first 5 minutes, be able to change their life. Forget about, you know, closing the deal, right? I want to be able to take someone in the first 5, 10 minutes, be able to diagnose exactly what they need to do in their life, and them to feel compelled, right? Because no one
Mm.
likes someone who's good at looping and closing. That sucks, you know.
I
Like,
know.
and the good thing is, I'm actually good at that stuff. Like, I'm actually really good at like arguing and like politics and stuff like that. Like, I could
I'm a
usually
good
make a very
arguer.
logical. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my thing, right? So, but like, who, like, as they say, you know, a man convinced against his will keeps the same opinion still. And that's the truest
Amen.
thing. And if you don't get them to re-switch, like to believe in you and the process and switch the way they're thinking, I mean, not much is going to get done. And I've closed deals like that, but they refund or they do nothing and waste their money. And that's not fun either. I hate that. When you make a big deal, you feel all good. And then a week later, they're asking for a refund. You're like, even if they don't get it and you keep the commission, you're like, damn, I don't feel good at all about this, you know,
No, no, that
because
it's icky.
yeah,
It's not fun.
it's pretty horrible.
Dude, obviously we've had a few interactions, so I know there's some things in common between us, but it's actually shocking me how much we really do have in common. Because as far as success routines, one of the reasons I'm always super curious about other people's is because I feel like I lack them.
Oh yeah, me too.
I'm a
I'm
very
tragic.
unstructured person because
Yeah.
I'm good on the fly, but that also comes at the detriment of like planning, right?
Right.
But I'm guessing, and totally correct me if I'm wrong, but tracking your numbers is probably one of the only things you do, right? As far as like habits and routines.
I do track my numbers pretty like to a T, but what else would I do as in like,
Because it's fucking scoreboard, right? That's the point I want to make is like
right,
you're a competitor, you want to win, so what's the score? It's my numbers. It's
right,
the people's lives I've changed.
right.
So even if you do nothing else, I want to drive this point home. Track your damn numbers as a sales rep so you can
Oh, for
analyze
sure.
what's going on and continually improve. There's no better spot to be in. I believe no better career to be in if you're progress oriented and you're a growth valuing person, because you can always get that next level. And that's why I started this YouTube channel, is because I felt like I was stagnating a bit, getting comfortable.
Mm,
And I was like, I need to open up some space in my brain to take in this next level knowledge. Right. So I need to
right.
like dump out all the stuff that I've been doing that's gotten me here so I can like reach up for the next stuff.
I like that. I like that a lot. No, you nailed it right on the head with that one. With the numbers, and to add to anyone listening, this week I had an absolute cooler. Didn't close a door. I did a ton of calls. We also had a new offer, which I was telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there's more steps in the offer than we normally do. So it's more touches. So I've probably done more actual calls than ever before. And I was like, man, I feel horrible. Like, what am I doing? And I couldn't pinpoint it. And I'm like, is it just the offer? Like, I can't just blame it on the offer. I go back and look. I only did 3 offers.
Mm.
I did 3 actual offers, and one, I guess I don't really count. This was like a one touch. He was like, show me what you got. I just showed him and got him off the phone like 20 minutes, but it's usually 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
So I did 3 real offers, and granted, I kind of did bomb those. Like I probably could have done better and stood up more powerfully for him. But I think I was just so in my head before, and all these offers were like today and yesterday, actually. So I had so many calls where I thought I was doing something wrong, and looking back at it, nothing was wrong. I just didn't
Mm.
have enough offers to really know. And then I get to these offers and I'm like so in a scarcity type mindset where I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I started thinking everything under the sun. I'm like, what's going on? Like, and then I look back, I'm like, dude, I messed up 3 calls. Like I did that last week too, but I closed 4 deals. So, and now I have a ton of meat on the board, of course, for offers to make next week already going into it. So you're right, man. The numbers are everything, because when you really face the music, it could tell you that you're doing something really wrong, but it could also completely change your mind. Like I feel like lighter. This just happened like an hour ago. I was looking
Yeah.
at it. I'm like, wow, I feel great. So
Yeah.
that's huge.
Such a good point. We got to drive this one home in case anyone didn't pick it up. Like, not only do you need to track your numbers so you can analyze, what could be done better, but it's also a reality check, because in sales, it's entirely possible that something happens in the funnel, something's off, there's something in the air, Mercury's in retrograde, and you have like a day where you make 4 offers and none of them close. And so now all of a sudden you start going into a rut because you feel bad, so you don't show up well.
Mm,
People will get so focused on what's right in front of them that they miss the big picture, right? It's like it's missing the forest for the trees. And so when you have your numbers and you can actually chunk back and look at, okay, well, today sucked, but how was the week? How was the month? How am I this quarter? And that can reassociate you with who you really are, looking at the bigger picture numbers where you've got enough data to actually make decisions. And that in and of itself can pull people out of ruts. Like if I have a down day, I'm going to look back at my numbers and be like, oh no, actually I'm a boss. It's all good.
yeah.
I'll come back
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Right. And which I'm glad I have them, because if I didn't, I would probably still be stressed as hell right now.
Yeah.
So that's huge. Did you have
So
something you wanted to bring up? Because I got a really good question for you, I think.
yeah, well, actually, yeah, hit me with a question.
All right. So don't know how to formulate this, but I'm gonna try my best, right? How do you, and this is new for me, make someone understand or bring them to understanding of what's at stake if they don't change? So obviously, like, they don't get the life that they want. But I had this call with a woman who was just, in. When I say in, like, I couldn't get more in. And she's like, yeah, everything's good. I'm like, thank God. And she really needs our help. She's just needs, help. And her partner walks in which I thought was her like business partner, but then turns out to be like her life partner. So her partner walks in and it's just Debbie Downer, right? Like not a mean girl, just like super skeptical. Turns out she owns a real estate brokerage and she like is the financial like head of the household. And she literally said, like, what did she say? She's like, oh yeah, she makes all our financial decisions. She knows better than me. Like it was just, I was like, oh, this is tough. And so she said, and she was real straight up, which I liked. And she said to me, she's like, look, I like your program. And I had to recap it real quick. So it kind of lost in translation. But she's like, I like your program. I think it could work. I mean, I've done things like this and it worked for me, but I'm just concerned it's not going to work for her. And I was like, this is awkward. And so basically she said, you know, you have to have the right mindset and yada, yada, yada. And so I'd on the fly, I don't remember what I said, but it worked really well. I basically reframed it. And I'm like, I get that, you know, 12K seems a lot right now. And if she messes that up, I could see that would be frustrating for you guys. But what happens if we don't do it? I was like, she's spending $2,000 a month on rent right now. She can't cover. How many more months can we do that? I mean, we talked about how she has 5 appointments on the book right now with the potential of 75. We had already done the numbers. I'm like, that's $17,000 a month that we're leaving on the table that we could fix this month, but we're not. So ultimately, it's almost $20,000 a month that we're losing if we don't fix this. And I was like, well, put it this way. Worst case scenario, you do this and it's not for you. You lose 12 grand, you find out. If we don't do this, if it's not for you, because the only thing holding her back was that she was afraid she couldn't convert the leads. I said, okay, well, if we don't do this, 6 months down the road, how much money are we going to spend? How much money are we going to lose? And how much more frustrated are you going to be that we didn't find out that if you can't close, you can't have a business? So wouldn't you rather find it out this month with us holding your hand and with our guarantee and all this other stuff? Or would you rather go, you know, drag it out over a couple of years? And then they were just like, you're absolutely right. And I was like, man, I didn't think that'd land. But how do I do that again? Basically.
Dude, well, it sounds like you did exactly what was right in the moment if that ended up working out. And
we didn't close yet, so we'll see.
Oh, okay. Well, then I redact that and we'll see how it ends up happening. There's a couple things. What tends to be best is having a real honest conversation with them, like taking off the sales hat for a moment and just being a human. Like, hey, I can completely understand your concern. If I had failed that many times in the past, frankly, I would probably question myself too. So, you know, let's take our program off the table for a moment, because that's not what's really important here. What is your belief in yourself. Because frankly, you could have the perfect process and we could walk with you every step of the way. But if you don't believe in yourself, you won't take the actions and it'll fall apart. Doesn't matter who you work with. So let's look at that. How long has that been an issue for you? And dive into that and actually have a real like conversation with them about it. And then stepping a couple steps down the road. Here's a little ninja trick. And I got it actually from a spiritual coach of mine who dug me out of a rut. If people don't believe in themselves, it doesn't matter how good your product is, doesn't matter how good, the results other people have had, they will have this like special snowflake thing about them. But the polarity to that, like the unspecial snowflake, like nothing works for me. I suck. Mm-hmm. And I'll take them through a very simple line of questioning. And to be clear, this is not like a tactic that I want you to pull out if you don't see the world the way that I do. Because I genuinely believe humans, we have limitless potential. There's nothing we can't do if we believe in ourselves. And that's really what holds us back from having what we want. And so I would ask, well, Spencer, tell me, who is it that you look up to? You know, who inspires you, whether it's an influencer, a business owner, a celebrity, you know, who do you really look up to? You know, and let's say you tell me, oh, it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Right.
My dad.
So then I would ask, I'd be like, okay, Dwayne "The Rock," tell me what do you admire about him? And you'd tell me, well, he's strong. He's just certain. He's got conviction. He just shows up with like a huge heart of gold, and he's relentless work ethic. What he puts his mind to, he can make happen. So then I would ask, okay, but do you really know why you admire him? They go, well, I mean, I don't know. Well, how do you mean? And I'll tell them straight in the eye, looking right into the camera so we can actually connect, say the reason that you look up to him and you admire those character traits in him are because you know at some level that those are within you too. There's nothing he has in him that you don't inherently have in you too. The only difference between the two of you is that he lives through that more often than you do. What do you think life would look like if you lived through that space more often? And when you can see someone like actually experience that live, I've had people cry on me, finally step up and do the things that they know they've needed to do all along, but they didn't believe in themselves enough to take the chance on. And they've been some of the most successful clients. The people that came in with bruised, damaged egos from other programs in the past finally had this like new life about them, and they were able to kick ass. So that's something that I would keep in your arsenal for things like that in the future, where they're like, you know, been through multiple programs, they're jaded, they're like, nothing's worked for me, I suck. A simple way of kind of reassociating with that, if you don't want to go as deep, is it's like, listen, man, I've talked with a lot of people that have been through that program. You want to know a secret? You are not broken. The system you were following is broken. It's not you. You just need the right system. Because no matter how hard and no matter how fast you run, you will never catch the sunset if you're running east. It's the other direction. Plain and simple.
Wow. Now, when you do that with, especially because we deal with that a lot, people have tried other programs and we know why they didn't work. What we do is very different in the sense that we teach people how to create their own Facebook ads, making them drastically more profitable, right? For the smaller clinic, especially. You don't tell them, I'm assuming, right? You don't tell them that the other program was bad, but actually ask them why they think it didn't work. Or is it okay, do you think, to just tell them straight up that that company's just trash? Because some of them are really pretty bad.
Well, okay. So to be clear, I won't badmouth another company, but I will let them know like, hey, the process that you were following can work for some people, but it's just the wrong process for you. It's like a size 9 shoe fits a size 9 foot perfectly. But if you, a size 5, are trying to wear that shoe, you're going to get big blisters. It's going to hurt. And you're going to feel like shoes just aren't for me. We just got to get you in the right vehicle to get where you want to go. Or like the same thing, like, bikes, bikes, they're awesome. I love riding my bike. In fact, to go from here up the road, it's the perfect vehicle for me. But have you ever tried to take a bike from California to Hawaii? No, nothing wrong with the bike. It's just the wrong vehicle. And I'm sorry that you were sold into the wrong vehicle for where you were at the time. Like, I totally get the frustration because I've been there too. But I need you to understand that there is nothing about these successful people that you don't have within you. You just need the right vehicle. And based on what you've told me, frankly, I can't see a better fit. And so I guarantee, as long as you show up and you put in the work, you will not fail, because you'll have at least 100% coming back from us. So can I count on you to be courageous until you've built the confidence in yourself? Because I don't expect you to be confident going into it. If you had to be confident in order to tie your shoes for the first time, you'd be walking around in slip-ons still. It takes a little bit of courage to try something new. And then when you have evidence of success, confidence grows and it fuels your momentum and things get easy. So I'm not asking you to be confident right now. In fact, the fear that you're feeling, it's totally normal. Our most successful clients have felt the exact same way before they started. All I'm asking for you is just a little bit of courage to take that one next step. And as long as you do, we will not let you fail. These little things, just to help build that personal belief in the people that are, lacking it, makes a huge difference. But then there's the flip side, right? Like, that's not everyone's problem. Some people have hyperinflated egos. And so you actually need to instill some uncertainty in them before they're willing to accept some help. So there's like a whole other side to this. You just got to be aware, like, is this person lacking belief, or do they believe too much in their own abilities and that's going to sabotage them? It's like two sides to the coin.
That kind of offer you just did, that would be more towards the second time that you offer, like after you paste the first objection and then they give you a new objection or after you paste the first objection, that's how you go into the second offer?
Yeah, like if I've gone through the looping process and I've identified that it's not really a financial issue or a timing thing, but they really are just lacking belief in themselves, that's where I'll kind of take the gloves off and get in there with them and have like a real human to human, like, come on, come to Jesus, let's get it done kind of conversation.
Gotcha. Okay, so here's something that I was a little bit confused on in the last video, right?
Do it.
Which is my absolute worst objection. I hate it because I'm this kind of person, right? So that's why. So when they hit me with the, not I got to think about it, because I usually can handle that pretty well. But when they start with, awesome, I'm not going to make a decision right now, but I love the program. That's the one that just grinds my gears, man. And because it's like a catch-22. Do I want to fight it? Or, you know, like, because the chance of them coming back is so low, right? But so it's worth offending them, right? But is it really? Because so then I'll pace it. I'll say, okay, so, you know, thinking about it aside, got it, not a problem, right? You know, how do you feel about the process? Does it still feel like something that's, you know, a perfect fit for you, stuff like that? And they're like, 100%. This is exactly what I need. I'm like, okay, cool. So the only thing is just thinking about it. They're like, yeah. And then from there, that's where it's like, that's the hardest one for me. So how do you go back into another offer like that? Like you said, gloves off from there. That's a tough one.
If there was a perfect formula, I would teach it. And I would love if you find the perfect formula to kill that too. But it's really contextual, you know, and being present with someone and being willing to say what's uncomfortable instead of what's just easy. A lot of times you'll come up with something better than I could say right now. But kind of the way that you went into it is how I would also handle things, just from a strategic point of view. You're like, oh my gosh, no, it sounds perfect. I don't make decisions on the spot. Okay, cool. When you say it sounds perfect, I guess I'm curious. Why do you think it would be though? And I'll just get them to then start rattling off reasons about why it's perfect. And then, you know, I'll actually reassociate with some of those 7 questions, like, and why now? I mean, I get that this sounds pretty cool for you and you can see some of the benefits, but why now? Got it. Okay. Well, you know, I can totally appreciate, you know, wanting to sleep on things, make sure it's the right decision. Now tell me what's coming up for you that has you feeling like this might possibly not be the right fit for you? Because, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems as if you're clear on this, you would want to capitalize on the momentum and get things done rather than procrastinate and complicate the process and possibly not even start in the first place, which would, I mean, you know, if my notes are right, you said it's costing you about, you know, $10,000 a month or X amount per day. Let's talk about it. So there's not a perfect formula, but I'm going to go back through basically the looping process and reassociate with it. Can you close every deal on the spot? You know, there's the certain people that literally will say, no, I have to pray about it.
I had one of those last week or this week on Monday. I got that.
Yeah, no, I have to pray about it. I'm like, okay, sounds good. Let's say a prayer right now, brother. I pray that Spencer makes the right choice for his business.
Strike me down if I'm wrong. I had a guy, I was getting closed into an MLM back in the day. And oh yeah.
There's some good salesmen in the MLM world. I almost did Amway like 5 years ago or so.
So this guy, he became like one of my main mentors even after the fact. He's a timeshare salesman. He's like top 10 at Marriott across the country. And his brother's number 1. They're very good. And I'm in his house and I said that to him. I was like, I really need to pray about it, because I was like hyper religious at the time. And he goes, come with me. I said, okay. I go into his little den and we kneel down and he made me pray with him. I swear, I can't make this up.
Oh,
it was great. And
if
so
I could do that with a straight face, I 100% would.
But he was really religious too, though. Like he was like all into it. So I think he was being dead serious. He was like, I feel good. Do you feel good? I'm like, yeah. And we did it. It was so funny, man.
Legend. Oh my God. I picked up a Bible for the first time, actually, in full transparency, about a month ago. I'm in the process of exploring my deeper spirituality. And
Yeah.
maybe someday I'll be able to just straight up pray with someone on the spot like that. But the lesson for everyone, be authentic to you. Don't if you see, you know, a sales rep like, oh my God, that sounded amazing, perfect, straight from him, I want to just say the same thing. It won't land the same as if you find your flow authentically within your own framework. Like I've even heard people that are just so bold. I was listening to a call breakdown in actually one of the coaching groups that I'm a part of. And this guy was his recap was literally, okay, so you suck at business and you want to get better. Do I have that right? And it's like, wow, for certain people, maybe that can work. But if it came out of my mouth on a call, it would be so inauthentic that the prospect would just disappear. They'd probably hang up the phone. So you got to know yourself more than anything. And to get really woo-woo, actually, because we create objections in our prospects that we ourselves use in our sales conversations. And because we create our reality based on who we are. I know this sounds woo-woo, but stick with me.
And I'm trying to follow here.
Yeah, like because that's the case, the better you get to know yourself, the better you will understand your prospects. Plain and simple. Because we create our reality. We draw through the law of attraction people into our lives that are similar to us.
Mm-hmm.
Or similar to the space that we're living through. Like it's possible to live through a very damaged place of ourselves and then attract other damaged people, right? That resonate with that same thing. It's like toxic relationships. If you look back and you're like, wow, that ex was crazy. If you were really honest with yourself, you were probably kind of crazy at the same time too. But if we just look at like a less woo-woo thing, because we share so much in common as people at our core, maybe not on the surface level with like how we dress, how we talk, what we look like, but at our core, we have the same emotions. And people make purchasing decisions emotionally, not logically, emotionally, and then they back them up later. The better you understand your own relationship with your emotions and you can speak to it, the better you can help other people in a sales conversation get in touch with those buying emotions. Plain and simple. So it's, cool to study other people and tactics and strategies, but the more you just study yourself, the easier things get. That's a real key. If someone gets that, they're going to close a lot more sales.
I was going to say, I just got that. I was like, wow, that was huge, because I've heard that a million times, right? That people buy emotionally, they justify logically, blah, 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 blah. You got to have an airtight logical case, but of course it needs to be emotional. But I don't think it ever landed like it just did right there. Because man, I'm looking back to because I've only bought 3 things, I think, in my life that were really a big purchase, right? That I had to be closed on. One of them, the closer was absolutely horrible. I said, can I think about it? He said, sure, and hung up the phone, right? And that was actually Sterling's program. And
oh, really?
He literally said it was tragic. I was like, can I think about it? He goes, sure, why not? I said, will the price be the same? He goes, sure. And I was like, okay, so I'll think about it. And I thought about it and I did it the next day. So like, that wasn't fair. That was like, he took me from that, right? The second one, he stole that from me. The second one, the biggest like real close of my life was when I bought personal training for the first time. Actually, I was 18 years old. I was like 105 pounds soaking wet. I was super emotional at the time, like about like insecure, but also because of the breakdancing thing, I wanted to be the best. And this was probably one of the best salesmen. I don't even know if he still sells, but like he was just really good naturally, maybe. And he told me, he was like, he got deep into me wanting to be the best, so on and so forth. And when I went to close, a little rough, but when I went to close, I said, yeah, let me talk to my mom and see if we could do it. And he was like, is it your body or your mom's body? And I was like, well, it's my body. And then he's like, and you work, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you need your mom's money or is it your money? And I was like, no, it's my money. And I was like, I just want to see what she thinks. And he was like, well, does she have the body you want? I'm like, no. I'm like, so that doesn't make much sense. And I was like, well, goddamn 47, you're right. And then, but I was like, like, that's not where it ended though. So that like made me, he checked me, right? And I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna go home and I'll let you know tomorrow what I think. And he goes, I forgot what he said, but it hit me so hard. He was like, I thought you wanted to be the best breakdancer in the world. And I was like, I do. And he was like,
identity frame.
He was like, what would the best breakdancer in the world do? Because if you don't train like the best, you'll never be the best. And I was like, you're absolutely right. God damn it. And I signed it on the spot, dude. It was like $6,000 or something. And I just financed it. I worked at a yogurt shop. So, I mean, that was the biggest.
So that's That's a big commitment for a yogurt shop 18-year-old.
Maybe was it 6 grand? I don't know. It was 6 months of one a week. So I don't know. I'd have to break it down. It was in the thousands. I knew it was more than I could comprehend. I was like, fuck it, I'm just doing it. And it changed my life, obviously. Like that's how I got into coaching. And that's actually why I got into sales, was because I wanted to be able to create that kind of feeling. So I guess where I'm going with that is, man, if you could, like you said, the identity frame, if you can close them on their identity, that's
Dude,
for me. I don't know if it's everyone. That's for me, the most emotional way to get me to do something is for sure it's identity.
That is huge. The identity frame is really powerful because like we make decisions from different places. Like there's kind of a hierarchy, right? There's like at the base level, there's like the things that we do. Like, well, I usually do these things. And then there's like towards the top is like, who am I at my core? And one of the strongest forces in human psychology is to remain consistent with how we see ourselves. And so if you can tie in your offer in a way that exemplifies moving forward would be being in alignment with how you see yourself, you got it. You freaking got it. And there's ways that you can do this in a sales call that are a little bit, more advanced and like tactical. But the way that I think about it, and it sounds funny, but like I think about, well, Pavlov's dogs, right? So he would feed them when the bell would go off. And then eventually when he would just ring the bell, they would salivate. So it's like training. You can train people to a certain degree in a sales conversation by affirming and acknowledging them. Because at our core, what do we want? We want acknowledgement. We want to be appreciated, seen, felt, heard, understood. And so when people exemplify certain character traits that would be supportive for them moving forward in the sale, we want to affirm and acknowledge them for it and apply a label. So as just a quick example, someone that has been through 5 different programs, this was actually a client of ours that in my mind, I can remember him because he had been through 5 other things to build his fitness coaching business and everything had fallen through. Instead of me being like, oh man, well, that's because all those other programs you did were horse shit. Ours is way better. Instead of just going straight in for that, what I did is I was like, man, that must have been rough. But I want to acknowledge you for a moment because it takes real balls to keep getting back up on the horse every time it kicks you off. Dude, that character trait right there is why you will be successful. No matter what it takes, you're going to keep doing it. So I made him feel real good about the fact that he kept getting back on. I didn't make him feel bad because he's failed up to this point. I made him feel good for continuing to make the choice to get back on the horse. So then I tied him down to that at the end of the sale. Right? I was like, all right, man. Well, I can completely understand that it's been a challenge thus far, but it's all led to this point. You ready to get back on the horse and do it right this time? Easy sale. So the identity frame is powerful. Don't forget that one. And when you notice behavior that would support a closed sale, affirm and acknowledge it. Like give them the treat, so to speak. Doesn't have to be big, or complicated, but just like, wow, dude, I admire you for getting back up there. A lot of people would have quit. That's why most people never get what they want. But the fact that you just keep getting back on the horse, no matter how hard it kicks you off, you're a fucking badass. You really are. I can't wait to meet you at the top. You inspire me.
Right.
So I'd be honored to have just a small hand in helping you create what you want, because I know the system will work for you. So as long as you bring that same energy that you have in the past, we're going to kick ass together, man. That's a big one.
Man, that's huge.
Dude,
dropping some nuggets on here today, man.
This has been so much fun, bro. Anything you want to leave our viewers with on the way out? I've got to bounce for my next call here pretty soon because I still take calls myself too. But
Oh, I forgot you're in West Coast, right?
I am. Yeah, I've got a couple more today.
Shoot, man. To the viewers at home, man. If you're in a business and you don't want to run a business, don't run a business, man. It's so much more fun. I can see a lot of people. So everyone think I'm crazy. All my friends think I'm crazy because I did right now, I can show you 143,000 in sales in the last 2 months and plus this month. Right. And I'm like, I'm making these guys filthy fucking fucking rich, right? Like they're killing it, and they have other guys. It's not just me, right? And like I could own an agency, I could figure out Facebook ads, I could run the ops stuff. I don't want to. It's just not my thing. I'm so happy, and I don't know if this is for someone out there, but like I'm so happy just doing what I'm good at doing and being hyper focused at getting really good at that, right? And also it helps to have a company that the culture is just on fire. Like my boss, whose main job before was sales, before he started hiring us, he's like, dude, you have it. Like you're going to be better than me. But it's not like it's just saying something. It's like that. He's like, this is not really my thing. I'm good at it, but I want to own a business, right? He's an entrepreneur. And then it's okay. I guess this is my message, is that it's okay not to be an entrepreneur, because for many years I aligned myself with like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. Like entrepreneur in the bio, right? Like that was not me, but you know, you get the idea. And I always found myself like, oh, I am an entrepreneur, but actually I'm just a competitor. And then it's just, you know, it was just a small tweak of understanding, but it made a huge difference, you know, absolutely huge difference. Because everyone now that knows me has always known me doing like crazy things. And they're all like, oh, you're going to start your own sales company? Are you going to start like speaking on stage? Are you going to do that? And I'm like, no, I'm going to chill in my room and make sales. That's what I'm going to do. And it's awesome. And they don't understand it, but they also don't see the numbers behind it. But, you know, right. So yeah, don't be afraid to like think you have to do something to be successful, because everyone has their thing. Like somebody's happy just putting, you know, envelopes in a mailbox, and that's like their dream situation, you know, and I don't understand it, but it's not wrong, you know? So that's my message, man. That's my message to the kids back home.
Dude, that's so good. Especially with, you know, the popularized culture from Gary Vaynerchuk. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur because it seems like that's what you're supposed to do. The most success you'll ever find in life is when you do a little bit of soul searching, you realize who you actually are at your core, and you do that on purpose. Instead of like trying to do what other people tell you to do, find out who you really are, do it on purpose, and no one will ever be able to touch you. 100%. I'm so stoked to see you like living through that place, bro. You're going to keep on kicking ass. This is just the start, and it's only going to get better from here.
It's good stuff, man. I do appreciate all you do. Keep making your videos and stuff, man, because like, you know, it's crazy to think like, yeah, I know we've spoken, you know, a couple times actually in person, but really I was just a fly on the wall, you know, like I wasn't an ideal prospect probably for what you guys do. But I was always watching, you know, and it made a huge impact on my life. So, you know, you didn't get paid for it, but definitely helps, you know, to make a difference and an impact, huge impact. A high impact, I should say.
I love it. Yeah, dude, money's great, but the best currency for me is like cool connections with people. So I'm glad you didn't buy a product that wasn't right for you, and we actually got a chance to just build a good relationship. It's going to keep on going. And I'm hosting when you come out to Arizona. Once I get my new place, I'm hosting. I'll throw some steaks on the barbecue and we'll jam out.
That'll be awesome. So one more thing for you, just to pump up your ego a little bit. So I've been showing your sales, not sales, the setting stuff, the setting videos. I was going over some setting videos with our setting team because for some reason I was running those, and I was showing them your stuff. And so they've been just messaging me stuff like, oh, Grant said this, Grant said that. Today on one of our coaching calls, I asked a question. He said, Grant said to do this. I'm like, damn, Grant's like a celebrity, right? And because like, I mean, I know you, right? So it's a little bit different, but they like, it's like, push out. Anyway, so my setting team is on the coaching call today with Double D, David Davidson. And they saw you on and they slacked me and they're, Grant's on here, dude. They're freaking out. And I actually Zoomed one of them in between now and then for like a tech issue. And she was like, I was fangirling for a second. So yeah, man, you're making a big impact, bro. And in a lot of lives, changing tons of lives.
Dude, thank you for that ego boost. Sometimes I feel like I'm just here talking to a camera by myself, but it's stuff like that that makes it all worth it, bro. I'm stoked to have the opportunity to help anyone close a little bit more sales and change some lives. So thank you.
My man.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. We will see you in the next episode. If you liked that video, just wait till you see the next one. And if you haven't already, go right down below me and hit subscribe.